All right, let's get this started. Hello and welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Curtis Stohaniak, and I am a product expert with Replicon, and I am giving you a big welcome all the way from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Today, I will be your guide on our featured webinar. I'm sure you've heard this a lot lately, but it is entitled The New Normal, Cloud and Mobile-Enabled Project Time Tracking. So before we get started, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of some of the challenges that organizations face when it comes to time tracking, and then we'll take a look at how our cloud and mobile-enabled project time tracking platform can solve all of these problems. Afterwards, we'll hop into a demo of the platform in action so you can see everything on the move, and then we'll take a look at a few customer transformations and then finish off with a Q&A. And just a few housekeeping notes before we continue. During the presentation, you will be on mute. But rest assured, if you have any burning questions that pop into your brain at any time, feel free to submit them into the question box, and we will get to them at the very end in the Q&A period. So at Replicon, we believe that not only is people's time a strategic asset, but it is their most important asset. Time filters into every single part of your organization, and it is finite. So once you've used up, it's gone. You can't get it back, and you only have so much time available to you at any given time. How much time is that exactly? Well, it depends on the size of your organization. With a 500 employee organization, you will have 1.04 million hours available to you annually. 5,000 employees, that bumps up to 10.4 million hours in a year. And with 50,000 employees, you have 104 million hours available to you. That is almost an unfathomable amount of time. That is way too much for any one person or even one department to organize. And why is this time so difficult to manage? Well, for a couple of reasons. We have our ERP, we have our payroll, project management, CRM, HCM, and PSA. And as you can see with our Franken system here, they don't always work together so well. And then to multiply those difficulties, we have our on-premises data and databases and our on-premises hardware. And let's be realistic here. Our on-premises stuff is not helping anyone at this point in time if they're working from home or working remotely. So we just have so many things pulling our information in so many different directions. And this causes a lot of challenges. We have costing delays, low utilization rates, chargeback errors, inability to plan capacity, decreased profitability, future pipeline growth, and that is just the start of things. And I'm actually going to just launch a poll here because we're actually really interested in seeing what everyone's plans are for moving forward and dealing with these new changes in our workplace. So I'm just going to throw open this poll here. I would love for you all to vote. You can pick one or as many are as applicable to your organization. But we really are interested in hearing from you because we are constantly taking feedback to help shape our platform so it works best for every single one of our users. So I'll just give you a couple more seconds here. Let's get some votes in here. And then we'll take a look at the results, and we'll also take a look at how we will look at these challenges in our platform itself today. I know for me, working from home isn't so difficult as it may be for someone who, say, needs to work at a university where there's a lot of people. I work for a software company, so it's a little bit of a less challenging situation for me, but we want to hear from everyone and see the challenges that face all of our different customers from all walks of life. So I'll give you another 5 seconds. We have had a minute on this polling station, and then we will take a look at the results. All right, so I'm going to end the polling. Let's go ahead and share these results. So it looks like we had a two-way tie for first. So what measures is your business planning to implement to adjust to the new normal? We have configured the workplace to adhere to social distancing. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And accelerate automation and digitalization. So we're going to be looking at that a lot today because we want to make sure that not only are you able to tackle the challenges that are facing you now, but tackle all the challenges that you will face in the future. So not only are we making ourselves ready for the short term, but for anything that can happen. And we will really see how Replicon can help us with that. So I'm going to close my poll and continue on here. So we have time. Everyone in our organization needs to use time, and they have different ways of using it. But we still need one consistent pool of data from everyone to pull from. So we have our finance leaders, we have operations leaders, delivery leaders, resource managers, billing leaders, HR leaders, and they all need to deal with time for different reasons. So we need one consistent source of information so that everyone can have all the information that they need at the tips of their fingers. And so for that, we have Replicon, the powerful platform for all of your time tracking needs. So you're going to hear me say this more than a couple times today, but Replicon is so configurable. Every part of the platform can be changed to meet your organization's needs and make the platform really a personalized experience. And not only are we configurable in all aspects of the platform, but we also can grow in size. So we are scalable. So whether you are the 10 employee startup or the 100,000 employee established organization, we can grow with you. And not only employee numbers, but in locations. So we are global and secure. So we support multiple languages, currencies, locations, time zones, holiday calendars, payrolls, the list goes on. So regardless of where you have employees in the world, Replicon can feel like it's built for them. We are also mobile ready. So regardless of what these employees are doing during the day, they can log their time in real time. So if they're on the go, they can track their hours, expenses as they happen. And our mobile app was built with ease of use in mind. So it is so simple for every single user in your organization to use. We also take advantage of artificial intelligence to make the process simple for every single person involved, from administration all the way down to the end user. And finally, we are plug and play. We are an open source API. So that means we can send and receive information from all of your ecosystem. We play well with all of your programs, so you can rest assured that Replicon will be right at home in your ecosystem. So today we're going to be talking mostly on project time and costing, but Replicon is a comprehensive suite with a lot of different solutions for all of your different problems. As you can see here, we have a couple of them listed. So time and billing, project resource management, global paid time off, workforce management, time and attendance, and compliance. And if any of these solutions pique your interest, keep an eye open because we are having webinars going on all the time. We're actually hosting weekly webinars and we have 2 more launching next week. So if any of these modules really interest you, stay tuned and we can educate you a little more. So recently we also did another survey. This was a little bit more to the beginning of the pandemic, and we are looking at global challenges around project time tracking. And the #1 challenge that people told us was that they were looking at managing resources and forecasting for future projects, and that was causing them a lot of problems. And the second was manual timesheets. We've heard that so many times, but they can be a nuisance, and especially if you have a remote workforce, it can cause a lot of headaches. So today we're going to look at how the Replicon platform solves all these problems. We have accurate project time tracking, enhanced project costing, ways to help you with your internal chargebacks, R&D tax credits, and capitalization. We are global, scalable, and mobile first, and we have powerful analytics and integrations. So just give me a moment here while I switch over my screen. And we're actually going to hop right into our demo of the platform. So we know even if you are working from home, things are going to be changing a little bit, but you still need to get all the work done. You need to track your hours, your costs, and your expenses. And regardless of what the situation is, you still need to get all this work done. And you need to track it in a way that makes sense for your organization. So not only do we track this information with Replicon, but we transform it. So what you see here is an example of our dashboards. And our dashboards are the living, breathing culmination of all of the information that you have entered into our platform. Every piece of data will be updated here in real time. And we'll cover this a little bit later. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. So today we're looking at project costing. And well, to track cost towards a project, we will need a project within Replicon. So as I said before, Replicon is open source. So if you have a project planning program like Microsoft Projects, you can actually import all of that data directly into Replicon and you will get it visualized like you see here. Likewise, you can export all this information to your program of choice and really just get everything that you need back and forth in an easy manner. But don't worry, if maybe you don't have your own project planning program, that is okay too, because we can create all the projects that we need directly from Replicon itself. So as I said before, you're going to hear me say this a couple times today, but Replicon is so configurable. We have so many options within the platform to make everything our own. So when we go ahead and create a project, we'll get options like revenue type, total contract value, time and expense entry. All of these can be changed and morphed, and we know that projects are going to be looking a little bit different in the future. We don't know what they're going to look like next month or in 3 months or in a year. So these projects are flexible. So once they've actually been created, you will actually have a host more options that you can drill down and change on all these projects. So for example, we can look at CapEx versus OpEx. We can change our total contract values later on, estimated hours, estimated cost. All this can be changed on the fly to really help you adapt to any changes that your organization will face now and in the future. And to better understand how we are going to be tracking time towards these projects, it's good to take a look at the structure of how projects are laid out within Replicon. And at the top, we have our programs, and the programs are the larger initiatives within an organization. These programs can be made up of as little as one project or as many projects as you see fit. A couple things you'll see a lot of in Replicon. One of them is tables. All these tables, you can change the settings, you can make whatever pertinent information you want visible. We can also change the sorting of them, so we can do it by projects or actual selected dates of the cost. But in this instance, maybe I see something that piques my interest. Maybe I want to understand a little bit more about our biggest program. And another thing you'll see a lot of Replicon is drill down. So if you see this lovely blue font here, that usually means we can take a closer look at one of these information metrics. And here, if I want to dig deeper into this program, I can see every project that has been created in this program, whether it's current, completed, or archived. And this is really important because we want to have our full information about our organization. So if we ever need to go back and understand successes or mistakes, we always have that information available to us. So here again, I have tables where I can change all my data sortings. And again, maybe I see something that piques my interest, like, for example, our financial data reporting fixes is our most expensive project by quite a substantial mark. So maybe I want to drill down a little bit further and understand more about this project. So from here, I will be given a ton of metrics on hours, cost, billing, on a daily, weekly, and monthly and quarterly basis. But since we're talking costs, let's hone in on that today. So we're taking a look at a little snapshot of this project's history. This is not a very nice snapshot, unfortunately, because as you can see, our actual costs were well beyond our estimated cost in a lot of examples. So these charts are updated in real time. Any piece of information that you put into Replicon about this project will be represented here. So as we can see, we did not estimate how much this project was going to cost very well. And this is important because if we start to see this trend where our costs are ballooning past our estimates, then we can start to fix things before they get too dire. And it's also important to keep this data historically because we can always go back and investigate a little bit further what caused these discrepancies between our actuals and our estimates. And we'll take a look at this a little bit later. But right now, we know too that entering time towards a big generic project isn't so helpful because, well, projects have so many moving parts and you want to understand exactly what you're working on. So in Replicon, we break these down even further into tasks, and tasks are the digestible chunks of a project. So we can break these tasks down into further subtasks and even further subtasks. And this just really allows us to hone in on exactly what we are working on. And this is really important for a couple things. So maybe we're looking at getting a R&D tax credit and we need to log exactly what we are working on because there are very specific parameters that what can be applied for in this tax credit. So we need to keep careful record of every single hour that is spent on this project. With all these tasks, we also have actuals and estimates, and this is important for a couple of reasons. Working from home can be difficult. You can't interact as much with your other coworkers. You can't really see the big picture. You can only see what you're working on, and you can't really see progress moving forward, and it can feel like you are on a treadmill. So we want to help you get off this treadmill. We have actuals and estimates built in so our resources as well as our organization can understand exactly how far along any given task should be at any time. So in this instance, I can see, for example, that our interview is actually 92% done. And so maybe that means we can start moving our time into other areas like our surveys or our post-analysis. On the flip side, if we look at implementation, it's not such a beautiful sight. We are almost double our estimated time. And if this is still not done, this really just lets us know that we need to put the hammer down and close out this task so that we can move on with this project. What these actuals and estimates also allow us to do is understand where our strengths and weaknesses may lie as an organization. So we're done our webinar recordings, we're done our online training, and we're done our seminars. Our user training went along quickly. So that means we can lower those estimates in the future and increase estimates on our less successful tasks like implementation, and really just allow us to accurately budget our projects every single time. So now that we understand how these projects are broken down within Replicon, we are going to need a team working on them. And this may come as a shock, but this is done in the Team tab. So our Team tab will tell us every single user who is assigned to this project, but it also really exemplifies the permission-driven nature of Replicon. So let's take a look at Tammy. Tammy, she is assigned to this project. That means she will only see information on this project, nothing else in this program, unless of course she's assigned to it, or nothing else in our organization's projects. And on top of that, Tammy will only see the information that we give her access to within this project. So maybe Tammy only has access to specific tasks. So we can actually assign her tasks or subtasks, and these are the only tasks that she can log time towards. So again, we are ensuring that Tammy knows exactly what she should be working on, and she can't make any mistakes in her time entry because she won't have any options available to her unless they have been given to her. And not only can we control what she sees within Replicon, but when she sees it. So as you can see, we have a start and end date, so we can kind of get her on a schedule for her tasks and really understand where along in this specific task she should be. And although this team page is nice for understanding who's on a project, we're going to want to dig a little bit more to understand exactly how we are allocating all these users. And again, shocking, that's done in the Allocations tab. So our Allocations tab will have a couple different color-coded time areas. Blue is hours allocated to this project. Gray is hours allocated to another project. And the two shades of green here, maybe that's a taupe. No, that's not taupe. Those are green. Are hours allocated to time off or holidays. Now, what we don't want to see here is these little red triangles in the corner. That means a user is over allocated, which means they're probably incurring overtime, which means they are increasing our overhead, which are all less than ideal situations, especially when you take into account that we have users that have not been allocated to their full potential. Now, this allocation tab is really important because with the current situation, schedules can change really quickly. Maybe there is a project that is in dire need and one of our users gets moved over to that project and all their hours get allocated within a day. Or maybe someone needs to take time off, sick leave, take care of a family member, or they just want to go on a vacation and go fishing in the backwoods away from humanity for a week. Whatever the situation is, we will have a full update of everyone on this project as it happens. So in this instance, we can see, oh boy, May is looking, and June, very empty. So you know what, I'm going to get a new user on this project to kind of kickstart things a little bit. So I can actually add users by a bunch of different metrics. Here I'll be given a list of everyone who's available to be added to this project. I can see their exact schedule, but if I want to drill down a little further, maybe I need someone with specific skills. In this instance, I need someone with Sage abilities, and it looks like Alex Chu fits that bill. We can also actually rank our resources so we know the best person for every job every time. This instance, I also need someone who is in North America. We want time zones to match up across the board. Alex Chu again, looks like you are the person for the job. Let's add you to the team. And once we've actually added Alex to the team, allocating his hours is just as simple. So we need someone to get started yesterday. So let's get Alex going next week. So we can actually assign a specific number of his hours per day, total hours per week, and very useful is a percentage of his available hours. So working from home, it can be easy to get sidetracked. If you finish up a project and you don't know what you should be working on, if you can't get in touch with a manager, it can be very deflating to your forward momentum if you don't know what you should be working on. So by maximizing our resource utilization, we can assign 100% of every single one of our resources hours so they know what they should be working on, when they should be working on it, and we're not wasting time trying to figure this out in the future. We can assign it all on the spot. And every user within Replicon is given a cost, and this cost can be normalized over a monthly basis if that makes sense for your organization. But when you add Alex's hours to this project, this will be reflected in not only those dashboards that we saw earlier, but that project page. So every single change you make in every single project reverberates throughout the platform, and it really gives you a real-time update of what is happening with your organization. And if you want to drill down even further, we have our Resources tab. So our Resources tab is similar to that Projects Allocation tab, except it is on an organizational basis. So if we really want to drill down further into any given metric, we can stick our noses in and understand exactly what was happening with our organization at any given time. So maybe we want to understand why our September 1st week did not go so well. We can drill down into our users, see exactly where they spent their time. And in this instance, we could see, oh boy, we had 4 users just in this area that were over allocated, and we had some users that were not allocated at all. And if we want to understand this even further, we can drill down on a project level. So go back to our financial data reporting fixes, and we can see where areas, maybe where those costs were ballooning past our estimates. Why this happened? Well, maybe because we were over allocating users and not having enough people on this project, for example. So this resource tab really just allows us to drill down and understand historically where extended costs may have incurred. And there may be instances when we don't exactly know who we need on a project or how much a project is going to cost. Maybe we're still in the planning phase. So we have our placeholder resources to take care of that. Our placeholder resources are just like any other resource in Replicon. You can give them costs and skills, and you can start assigning them to a project, and they will update those actuals and estimates based on what you input into that project. Now, this is important because 1, it'll give us an understanding of, yes, how much it's going to expend if we have this many people on this project, and 2, allows us to do any hiring or training that may be necessary to get us up to the appropriate numbers of people that we need on that project. And once those people are ready, we can actually just slot them in where these placeholder resources exist, and we don't have to worry about any of our information being skewed because, well, we've already done all the calculating, so it'll be right there for us. So we've looked at how our projects are structured within Replicon and how we staff them. And that was the fun part. We get to log our time towards them. And we call ourselves the Time Intelligence Company for a reason. We do time so well. Within Replicon exists so many different permutations of timesheets that you could feasibly create an individual timesheet for every single user in your organization. So what we see here is a little bit of an example of a project-oriented timesheet. So here I can add time towards specific projects, tasks, activities, and very important to note is all of these are searchable. So if you're an organization with 100 different job codes, I can quickly type in what I'm looking for and get a hold of that. And on top of that, with our permissions, you will only see what you have access to. So we don't have to worry about inaccuracies in our timesheet entries. It is so easy for every user to find exactly what they were working on. And ultimately, we want to know this information in a detailed and accurate fashion because, well, we want to know how much we're spending and we want to make sure our organization is running smoothly. So by making everything easy for everyone involved, we avoid errors. And once we've actually selected all these metrics, we can start logging our time towards them. And if this specific task has a progress bar like you see on the side here, as we enter our time, that bar will grow in real time. So this is very similar to that task progress bar that we saw before, but this is just on a user-to-user level. Again, allows our users to understand how far along they should be on a project and help them see that forward momentum. So I think I am just about done here entering my time. As we can see, Wednesday was quite the day for me, but let's go ahead and see what happens when I try to submit this for approval. So the first thing I will get is an example of our validation rules. Validation rules within Replicon are certain parameters that must be met every single time a timesheet is submitted. And these validation rules cover things like hours during a rolling period, minimum or maximum hours entered, or even mandatory break enforcement. And if one of these validation rules is not met, there will be different results. In this instance, I forgot to click the box for this attestation on the bottom, so I get this gentle reminder to please accept and submit. So if I want to submit my timesheet, I'm going to have to do that anyway, and we'll let Replicon work its magic. Obviously, it's going to have to do some extra thinking on this one because there were some spotty timesheet entries, and our timesheet was rejected. So this is an example of what happens when our validation rules are not followed. In this instance, our data reporting fixes implementation task has exceeded the estimate of 150 hours. So we can see 150 hours is exactly how many hours we estimated for this project. We can set that threshold to 125%, 150%, 200%. But in this instance, my timesheet was rejected outright for a couple of different errors. And what this does is really allow us to nip those timesheet errors at the bud. We don't want to have our approvers going back and forth with resources and our coworkers because Ultimately, especially with the work from home, it can be a lot of time going back and forth, asking, is this correct? Is this the right change? And it is just not an efficient use of anyone's time. So by putting the onus on the end user, we are ensuring that not only is the time entered accurate, but efficient, and we don't have to worry about these back and forth, and we are just ensuring that every single timesheet is correct when it is submitted. And I'm going to actually give you a couple examples of other timesheets that we have within Replicon. They will all be housed in our cost tab. So our cost tab has a historical record of every single timesheet that has ever been created in the history of your instance. So whether this has been submitted, rejected, approved, we will be able to find it here, and we can search by user, by project, so we can really drill down in case of an audit or dispute, understand exactly what happened on a specific timesheet. Now for me as an approver, I will find this waiting for approval tab very useful because it will tell me any actions I have to take. So if I have some timesheets that are waiting for approval, I can go ahead and batch approve or batch reject them. But in this instance, I think it might be useful to drill down a little bit further because we do have a couple of these validation warnings triggered. So let's drill down and see what's going on with Chris's timesheet. So with Chris, we can see he has a little bit more of a basic timesheet. All he's doing is logging the hours he worked per day, not towards anything in particular. And this works great for some organizations. But what we can see is that Chris has triggered one of our validation warnings. He entered too many hours for this time period. So maybe this isn't as egregious an error as we saw previously. So we allow this timesheet to be submitted, but it will be flagged. And either I can go back, and we can see here, I can reopen this timesheet and adjust everything accordingly, but we want to put the onus on our end user again, make sure that they are the ones entering their time correctly. So if we give Chris permission, he can go back and reopen this timesheet and adjust the hours accordingly. And anytime there is a change on these timesheets, we will see this updated in the approval history on the bottom. So in case of audit or dispute, everyone knows exactly what happened on any one of these given timesheets. Now another example of a timesheet we have here is with Rania. So Rania's timesheet is a little bit more of a custom timesheet. So Rania is actually entering the specific hours that she worked on during the day. So in this instance, from 8 till 8, we can still log her activity, task, and project. She can log multiple activities, tasks, and projects during the day. But what we can see here is that Rania did not submit a comment. And comments is an example of a custom field. In this instance, comments are so important because working from home, we might not be able to be in touch with every single one of our employees on any given day. So what this comments field really allows them to do is allow them to tell you what they worked on during the day, what challenges they faced, where their successes were, so you can feel like you are staying in touch with all of your organization and still understanding what challenges they may face. Another example of one of these custom fields is this mileage area. And this could say mileage, it could say units completed. We could upload photo proof of the work done during the day. Whatever you want these timesheets to be, you can make it so. Not only can we make an individual timesheet for every user in our organization, but we can make multiple timesheets for every user in our organization. So maybe in this instance, Rania is working from home, but who knows, next week she's back at the office and she needs a better timesheet that reflects the time that she is spending there. So we can create 3 or 4 different timesheets for Rania, depending if she's working from home, working from the office, or working abroad. Whatever the case is, we can make a timesheet that works best for Rania. And timesheets aren't the only things we're capturing in our My Replicon tab. So here we house a lot of the more personal information. So here we can also log our time off. So time off again is going to be a thing that is really important to keep tabs on in the coming weeks, coming months, and basically forever. So if any user wants to understand their time off balances, they can drill down and they can understand where their vacation time is at, where their family emergency time, personal leave, sick leave, and all these accrual policies can be changed and adjusted on the fly. So if they want to understand how they're accruing their vacation, they can drill down even further and understand their yearly carryover, their monthly accrual, and see exactly when they have accrued this vacation time. And if they are in fact ready to take time off, they can go ahead, click on the days that they're looking for time off, enter the time period, and this will be automatically sent off to an approver, which can then be approved or rejected. And once it's approved, it will be actually updated on those project allocation sheets like we saw earlier. So it really streamlines the process and allows us to better take into account all of this time off that is being taken in real time, so we're not facing any surprises when it happens. And finally, we have our expenses tab. So expenses might be a new challenge for a lot of organizations. There may be some users who never had to log an expense in their life, but now we are faced with different opportunities. For example, maybe we don't have fast enough internet and we had to pay extra for that, or maybe we needed hardware to get things working from home, or just a nice ergonomic chair so we are not sitting on our couch during every task during the day. So these users will need to log expenses, and Replicon made this as easy as possible for everyone involved. So we can actually log our expenses towards specific projects again, so we can keep our costs in check. And within each of these different projects, we will have different types that we can allocate. So maybe only one part of this project will have mileage, and we can account for that within Replicon. And once we actually go to log specific time, like say we're logging mileage, we can actually put in the amount that will be covered, the rate at which we reimburse. We can actually have tax accounted for and the different currencies. So everything is calculated automatically. All they have to do is enter their kilometers, upload a picture of the receipt, and then this goes off again to a supervisor approver, and they can approve or deny this and get the reimbursement process moving along quickly and efficiently. And we wanted this quickness and efficiency to transfer over to our mobile app. So I'm actually going to switch to our mobile app to show you just how our desktop transfers over to our mobile experience. So when we fire up the mobile app, the first thing we will see is we are greeted by Chatbot. Chatbot is an example of the AI that we employ within Replicon to make everything easy for everyone involved. Chatbot can streamline your processes, answer questions, but fortunately, we're going to have to leave Chatbot for now because we're focusing on projects and time. So I'm logged in as Richard Anderson, and we could see here Richard Anderson has access to his timesheet for this week. So he can go ahead and add his time entry for the day. He can log his time towards programs, projects. Again, everything is searchable. He can log his specific tasks, add comments if applicable. So everything that he had available to his desktop timesheet is available to him on the mobile app. And this is so important because if users are on the go and they have to try to remember everything that they're going to enter when they get home, realistically, it's not going to be accurate. So by giving everything that they have access to on the desktop on their mobile, we can ensure that the time being entered is accurate every single time. And not only do we want things to be easy for the end user, but also for approvers. So anytime there is an action that Richard needs to take, he will be given either a push notification or an email that there is something that needs to be done. And in this instance, we can see, we have some timesheets waiting for approval. So Richard can drill down. He can, again, batch approve, batch reject. Or if he wants to find out a little bit more, drill down into each individual timesheet and see how Tammy was working on the day. In this instance, we can see she had her usual 8 hours. There was no validation rules triggered. So he can go ahead and approve this timesheet. But also there exists an option to automatically set these timesheets to approve right away. So if there's no validation rules triggered and it's business as usual, these timesheets can be sent along the approval process, skipping any manual approval by a supervisor. By having our validation rules in play and our permissions, we can already ensure that this time being entered is accurate. So we save so much time on everyone's end by automatically approving these processes. But if you still want to have a smart approval process, you can have it go to 1 supervisor, 3 supervisors, 12 supervisors. You can make whatever approval process works best for your organization within Replicon. Not only does this work for our timesheets, but we can go dig down into our expenses, interview expense, when we could go out for meals with our interviewees. So we could go ahead and approve our timesheets and expenses. Everything that we had on the desktop platform in that My Replicon tab is available to us in our mobile app. So I'm just actually going to switch right back to our screen here. So we've taken a look at how we can plan our projects, how we staff them, and how we log our time in Replicon. But now we're going to need to use that time because we log time, but it has uses as well. So we can drill down even further into our cost tab. And our cost tab has this feature called our time workbench. So as we were discussing earlier, if we are looking at getting an R&D tax credit, we need to keep meticulous record of every single thing that it has done within Replicon. So our time workbench breaks down every activity, task, and project into the hours that they were worked on per day. And we can drill down and sort this by entry date, user, and really hone in on exactly how we're using our time. So again, as I said, this is really useful for audits if we are doing our R&D tax credit, Or on the other hand, maybe we are just trying to track our chargebacks and understand where we should be charging our time for in each different department. Once we're ready to go, as I said before, Replicon is open source, so we can actually export all this information to our ERP program of choice. So when we go to create our export, we'll be given all this information and we can export it to JD Edwards, Oracle, PeopleSoft, SAP. We can also create new export types. So if there is one of your ERP programs that is not in this list, don't worry, it can be accounted for. But in this instance, I'm not ready to export because I am not finished with this specific project. But we also have the option, for example, if you want to export all this time data, you can save it as a CSV and save it on premises so you have a backup no matter what happens. And let's be real, CSV is pretty much applicable to any format, so it is always available to be used. So now we have looked at how we plan our projects, how we staff them, how we log time towards them, and how we can use this time to better our organization. But there's a little bit more that we can do with this time. We can transform this time. So we have captured so much information and we want to make visual sense of that. And one of those ways that we do that is through our internal dashboards. So like we saw before, our dashboards are the living, breathing culmination of all of our platform's information. These dashboards are really awesome for exporting into slideshows, presentations for leadership, or just giving anyone who needs to understand the organization a quick glance at how things are going. So with all of this information, we can actually drill down even further. So we will be given a bunch of metrics here. We can drill down and get a better understanding of these specific metrics behind each specific project. And then again, if I want to understand more behind each project, I can actually see where my costs were incurred on a user-to-user basis. So really great for just understanding outliers in an organization with a couple of clicks. Now, another way we display all this information within Replicon is through reports. And I'm sure you have all seen 1 or 3 or 15 reports in your history, and that is because they are so important. They give us all the hardline data behind our organization. So built into Replicon, we kind of have our most requested reports, but these are by no means an exhaustive list. You can tweak all of these or create them from the ground up. We can also have these scheduled out to run on a daily, monthly, weekly, yearly basis and sent out to anyone on your organization who needs them. And this is again important because we have people everywhere, but we want to keep everyone in the loop with exactly what is going on within the organization. So one example would be this project cost report. I actually built this from scratch, and it will just give me a quick rundown of all the projects going on in my organization, whether they're CapEx or OpEx, the actual cost, the estimated cost, the normalized costs, and the expenses. So we can understand how much we are spending on a project-to-project basis, as well as a whole organization. And finally, we understand that Replicon may or may not be the only part of your ecosystem, but regardless, we want to play well with every single program that you have running. So for that, we connect to BI tools like Tableau, Power BI, and Google BigQuery. And to get visualizations like you see here, all you have to do is download one of our sample workbooks and log into your connector, which is basically log into your instance, and everything will be uploaded like you see here. And this is so important because not only are we logging your data, but we're transforming it and giving it meaning. So for example, maybe I wanted to drill down a little bit further and do a little bit of my project analysis. So here I can actually take a look at all my projects. I can change my metrics to hours or cost. And then from here, I can drill down even further. So maybe I want to explore my software redesign. I can see all these metrics by month, but I want to go a little further and drill by user. And from there, I can see user per month. So I can really drill down and hone in on any time period, any user, and understand how they are using their time and how they are costing our organization. So that's going to actually bring me to the end of our demo today. I'm going to hop back into our PowerPoint. We're going to take a quick look at an overview of everything that we learned today, look at some customer transformations, and I can see I have a hand raised. So I will get to that in just a couple minutes when we get to the Q&A period. So as we saw, Replicon has so many benefits. We can help you decrease your costing errors, increase resource utilization, decrease administration overhead. The list goes on. There are so many things that Replicon can help your organization with. Essentially what it boils down to is we give you a consistent pool of data so that you can pull information for whatever you need it. And let's take a look at some of these examples of how Replicon has helped organizations transform their time tracking procedures. So we have a computer software company that had over 800 employees. They used an on-premises system, but it was not able to grow with them. So this caused things to become cumbersome. Manual tracking can be difficult when you have large numbers, and this had limited insight for forecasting future projects. And let's just say they weren't quite so audit-proof when it came to R&D tax credits. After implementing Replicon, they were accurate and effective at distributing their hours to R&D projects. They spent less time trying to figure out what all this information meant and more time working on the important things. And this created a centralized solution and robust reporting that provided meaningful data to everyone in the organization. Another example here is a 300-person consulting firm. Makes me shudder. They used manual spreadsheets. And this obviously made everything difficult to track, made billing an utter nightmare, and delayed and affected their profitability. After implementing Replicon, they had a user-friendly interface that allowed for accurate, consistent data. This improved their resource management, allowed for better staffing, and ultimately had faster and better accurate billing as the client process was streamlined. So today we saw Replicon in action, and we mostly focused in on project time and cost, but we have a comprehensive suite to manage all of your time needs. That includes time billing, time and attendance, as we discussed before. We'll have more webinars on these topics in the future, so keep an eye out. And if you saw anything that piqued your interest with today, feel free to get in touch with me. You can drop me an email at any time. My email is curtis.dohaniak@replicon.com. That last name is a little bit of a tongue twister, so it might be good to copy it right down from the slide here. Again, my name is Curtis Dohaniak, and I want to thank you all so much for joining me today. If you ever have any questions, feel free to drop me a line, and I hope to hear from you all very soon. So have a wonderful rest of your day and stay safe. And again, thank you so much for joining me, and hope to hear from you soon.